Hi everybody. Okay, to kind of lighten the mood because it's Saturday, I was thinking about it last night. I decided to do a little video about jumping the shark. Okay, now this is a term they use when a show has gone over the limit and is about to end. Okay, and there's usually a pivotal moment when a show or anything has jumped the shark. So I'm going to talk about a couple of moments here. And okay, for clarification, um, I'm going to do one thing about soap operas and teen soaps because really, when you look at it, teen dramas are just soap operas made for teenagers, and also some sitcoms. Okay. Um. All right. So let's start with the soap operas first. Well, uh, sometimes when you have longevity, you can get repetitive. So, as far as that goes, I think that Y&R has kind of done that a little bit because now they're getting into stories that are so unbelievable that even when you try to fathom it, it's like, oh, come on. Okay, like, just because it's been happening and it's finally going to end, Sharon. The whole situation with Sharon. Okay, let's start from the beginning. When she came on the scene, she was really young, 20, 21 maybe, right? And so, and then also, Joshua Morrow was the same age, around the same age, okay? So then they paired them up as a young love story, right? Of course, they had the trials and tribulations. They got married 4 years later, I think. And then after 4 years, well, I mean, it's kind of weird because the timing is just not right. But apparently, well, they had a story in 2008. So, yeah, okay, the timing does work out a little bit, but I had to work it out. Okay, so apparently they met in 1994. Then they got married in 1998 with some hesitation from Nikki and the whole Newman clan because apparently Sharon came from the wrong side of the tracks. Okay. So at that point, they're a young married couple. Then they start having children. And 10 years later, in 2008, already Nick has cheated. So 10 years. It's a short time, but I guess if you include that they got married young, but then again, if they don't want to get married young, then why let them get married young? So I don't know. Okay, coming back to present day. So now she's been on the soap opera for 30 years. I've talked about this before, but I'm giving you a different angle here. Okay? The, when I say unbelievable, what I'm talking about is Sharon is supposed to be the good girl. Okay? The one who you look at and you think she wouldn't hurt a fly. Yet she has, let's see, let me think of like 5 things that I remember that she's done. Okay, well, she's had every kind of illness she could have. She had a bout of cancer. She's had mental illness or mental health problems now. Now she's on medication, which the medication was messed up. And now you're supposed to believe that she unalived somebody. But now you're supposed to believe, on top of that, that no, it wasn't her. She just happened to be wrong place, wrong time. How unbelievable is that? Even when you put on the soap, The fact that it's a soap opera, come on. Okay. Okay. And then Bold. I don't even know what to say for Bold. Because I've been watching for 2 years. Because when I started my channel, part of what I started with was soap operas, and well, I started with sports too. But okay. So the two soap operas I watched was Y&R and Bold. And everybody kind of warned me that Bold is kind of your beaten off the beaten path kind of thing. So it's like, okay. But now, okay, in the last year, we had, let's see. Well, there was that storyline where Eric was supposed to unalive from some mysterious illness, but then he was given the Christmas miracle and he lived. And then we've had two people unalive by the hands of a woman that doesn't look like she would hurt a fly again. And now we have, oh, and then also we had other characters come in and they fired one because she supposedly had suggested pictures, which they never looked into, but yet they fired her. They did rectify the situation, but the point is they did it in the first place. And now we have people coming back finally that I've been begging for. Okay. So those are a few examples of where the soap opera has gotten off the wheels. And it's just like I don't even know. Okay. Going to teen soap operas. The one I'm focusing on here is Dawson's Creek. Okay. Now, a lot of people have been critical of Dawson's Creek for a lot of things because they're supposed to be surrounded by teenagers, supposed to be a teen cast, but their language and vocabulary is way too advanced for teenagers. So there was a criticism for that. Then they got out of high school. Then you're supposed to believe they go to Boston for college, and yeah, they're supposed to mature, but okay. So Katie Holmes' character, Joey, falls in love with a professor, which is not unheard of, but a lot of people gave backlash because, oh my god, she fell in love with a professor? That's so wrong. Well, if she's supposed to be so smart, who else is she supposed to fall in love with? Somebody who's supposed to be age appropriate, but yet can't carry on a conversation? So then the problem with that is that he was a professor, a lot older than her, and then they toyed with the storyline that first he was married, then he wasn't, then he was. Turns out he was, but he said he wasn't, that whole thing. And then also, there was a pivotal storyline where they weren't going to meet at his house or something. And that's the episode where she got mugged, and it could have been a lot worse, but nothing really happened to her because, in a twisted sense of fate, the guy who was going to do stuff was unalived due to circumstances not having to do with her. A car just happened to be speeding and hit him directly, killing him basically on impact. And then she had to deal with the aftermath of that because her the ex-wife or the wife or something and the little daughter found out about their their family member. So they go to the hospital, finds out he's unalived by circumstances. And she is the one who um, gave. She ended up giving them her money so that the mother wouldn't be in trouble with bills or something. So it was a weird storyline. Okay, then we have them further maturing because they decide to go 6 years into the future, where you find out that Joey finally decides who she wants to be with, quote unquote, and it turns out to be Pacey. Sorry for the spoiler for anybody, but yeah. Also, I have a little tidbit about that. Okay. Originally, the pairing of Joey and Pacey was not supposed to happen. The pairing was supposed to be Joey and Dawson because they were going on the fact that you can have a childhood crush and it turned into marriage or whatever, right? But what happened is they saw the chemistry between Joshua Jackson and Katie Holmes, who liked each other at the time, and so they went with that storyline. True. Okay. And then 6 years into the future, she decides who she wants to be with. And then the final episode was a two-parter, and they unalived Jen because apparently after she got pregnant with her daughter, who was supposed to be a year old in the story, um, because the pregnancy, she got a complication, which is something with her heart, and she was gonna unalive, but no one knew that. And the only thing I can fathom is that apparently they wanted Jen to, because her name was Jennifer Lindley, okay? So everyone called her Jen. They wanted Jen to be the one that was the instigator, but she wasn't in the original group. So I guess that's why they felt they could unalive her. My best guess. Okay. So, and plus, they kind of gave her storylines where she didn't quite fit into the group. So that whole thing was going on for 6 years. 5 or 6 years. Because she came in from New York City and Joey didn't like it. Pacey didn't know what to do with her. And then they put her in relationships where the guys didn't know what to do with her. They didn't really like her. They made her seem like she didn't have a place. So this was going on the whole time. Okay. And then they unalive her, which was the biggest blow. You know, for that, because unless you saw the episode, they kept it under such good wraps. You did not see this one coming at all. Okay. Okay. So that's when it started getting a little sketch. And the way they did the final episode, I just don't agree with it. Because yes, they're supposed to move on, and I didn't want them to be a happy, cozy something. But the way they did it, I just was like, what? What? Okay then. All right. For sitcoms, I have to talk about the Brady Bunch because this is the biggest jumping the shark thing ever, and this kind of goes into conjunction with my other pick. Apparently, they did this with sitcoms a lot, which I didn't put the correlation until I started piecing it together. Okay, now for a chronological sake, Brady Bunch was done in 1969 to 1974, and it was based on two people meeting, and the guy had 3 kids and the woman had 3 kids. We all know the story. And then they had a maid. I'm sorry, not trying to be whatever. they were called maids or housekeepers. Okay. So then we're going merrily along. We're into year 5. And then all of a sudden, this character, Cousin Oliver, comes out. And it's like out of nowhere. No one's ever heard of Cousin Oliver. No one ever mentioned him before. He just pops up. And the reason is because, and I've always had this theory, it turns out it's kind of fact. So it's no longer a theory. When you have kids in the storylines or in the cast, it's a known fact that they're gonna grow up. And sometimes when they grow up, they lose their cuteness. Okay? So to counteract the cuteness factor, they have to find somebody younger and cuter to make up for the last kid. Because when they started, Cindy Brady, the youngest, was a cute 7-year-old girl, right? Okay, well, by the end of it, she's 12, which she can still be cute, but she's turning more into beautiful because she's 12, 13, right? So they had to put in another kid. Well, this poor guy now, Robbie Rist, is put in the role of Oliver. And a lot of people have done a lot of things, articles and other media about how he tanked the show. But come on. No, I don't believe that. I believe that they ran out of storylines, and plus their last storyline was so far-fetched, it just did not work at all. So, okay. Now get this. The storyline was that Bobby wanted to make some money, so he's going to sell rabbits. But not just any rabbits, orange rabbits, because he accidentally left some dye and made them all orange. Well, the funny part is that Greg was trying to help his youngest brother. So he said, yeah, I'll buy a bottle of it from you. So he uses it on his hair, and it turns his hair orange. The problem with this is that he's going to graduate the next day. The day you don't want to have different colored hair is, okay, like for women, it's the wedding day, but for a man, it's graduation day. Probably the wedding day too, because I'd like to believe that men do care about their wedding day. Okay. So yeah. Okay, on to my last sitcom, The Cosby Show. I just thought about this the other day, and they did the same thing that the Brady Bunch did, only about 20 years later. Well, that show ran from 84 to 92. So not quite 20 years, but you know what I mean. Okay, so once again, focused on kids, family. So I guess the ratings were going down because people aren't really into family sitcoms anymore, and animated series were taking over. So, like The Simpsons. And so, to try to boost the ratings, they put in another character, a new character, Cousin Pam. Now, Cousin Pam is supposedly related by Claire, although Claire never talked about Pam ever. Okay? So they just dropped her in there. And of course, they had to have friends. So they gave her a boyfriend and a best friend, and the best friend had a boyfriend. So now you got 4 teenager 20-somethings, right? And then the show lasted about another year after that, maybe. And so, yeah, the new person effect, the new family member no one's ever heard of effect. That is when you jump the shark. Okay, bye everybody.